Hello and welcome back to Kody and Korbin Have a Podcast, the show where two former roommates talk about prisoners.
Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Anna, wait until we're invited.
Oh, for God's sake, Keller, get the hell in here.
What?
He actually sings in the shower. It's a whole
I do not.
Yes, you do.
Abby, can I take Joy to our house?
And wear a hat, please. You're just getting over a cold.
Joe, you wear a hat too.
Where are your sisters?
I can't find them.
Anna? Joy?
Wait, I checked the entire house. They're not here.
Dad, there was this RV and they were playing on it. We thought there was someone inside.
You wait here.
Let me go.
I couldn't find them!
Detective Loki.
Do you have children, detective?
I'm gonna find your daughter.
Show me your hands right now! Huh?
You put those girls somewhere, Alex. No. I know you put those girls somewhere.
He stays in custody until my daughter's found, right?
We have a 48-hour hold on. It ends tomorrow unless we bring charges.
We'll charge him with something.
That boy has never been in trouble, not a day in his life.
Well, this thing's clean. I'd start looking in the woods by the rest stop.
The police said they're letting him go today.
I can do what I'm telling you! Oh, no! Day 6, and every day she's wondering why I'm not there.
You told us that you could protect us from everything.
Why did you look for my daughter? Alex.
What in the world did you do?
Someone has to make him talk, or they're gonna die.
We're not gonna help Keller, but we won't stop him either. Let him do what he needs to.
I know you know where they are. Where's my daughter?
As always, I'm your host, Korbin Zvokel, and joining me is my co-host, Kody Webb. Kody, what's going on, man?
Not too much, man. I'm very excited to be back. Another episode of KHAP. First episode we are recording in 2024. It's a new year. I'm excited, and I think we're starting off with a bang, man. Should be a good one.
Getting into a very intense movie today.
Oh, yeah.
And the intro was straight and to the point because this movie, I think, really requires it. But it's a favorite between the two of us. So I wanted to ask Kody, why did you pick it?
Why me? Why did you pick me?
It's a good question. I mean, I feel like we've just been knocking out a lot of good movies recently, so I wanted to contribute to that. In general, I don't know if people know this, but I feel like they probably do. I like Denis Villeneuve a lot. He's one of my favorite directors working today. And this, I don't know, this might have been the first movie that I saw of him, honestly. It was one of the first few for sure, but I just really enjoyed it. I watched it. Well, I guess we'll get into that, but I had only seen it once, and I kind of just wanted to rewatch it as well. But yeah, I mean, this is also the third Denis movie I think we've done now.
I was gonna say it's the third Denis and the third Hugh Jackman flick. So two
okay,
guys that we've talked
Oh,
about
yeah.
a lot. But something that I noted to you,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
the very first Jake Gyllenhaal movie that we've ever
I
done,
know.
which is kind of surprising.
Yeah, that is crazy because I feel like we have talked about him a good deal. And I think
Comes up often. That's for
yeah,
sure.
he does. I hate on him constantly, which we'll get to. But I think I've picked every Hugh Jackman movie. I picked Days of Future Past, The Prestige, and now Prisoners. So I guess I'm a big Hugh Jackman fan too. Him and Dave are gonna have some beef, but yeah, I think this is just a good movie. And like I said, it's super intense and it's got a lot of twists and turns. So I think it'll be a fun one, just like break down and kind of see some different angles from it.
Yeah. And when you suggested it, I had been eyeing it on Netflix. I saw it. I was like, Prisoners? It's a good one to rewatch. So I was super down to talk about it.
Yeah, I recently got Netflix too, so I saw it was on there. It's like it's hard to say no to that. Hard to say no to some Denis. So yeah, I feel like it was a pretty easy pick all around for me.
Kody, do you remember the first time watching it?
Do you remember?
I do. So I watched it, like I said, for the first time in 2021. Actually, I went back in my letterbox. It was the 20th movie. I went back and counted the 20th movie that I ever logged in Letterbox. So I haven't had Letterbox for too long, but it was October 23rd, 2021. So it was kind of spooky season, and I guess I wanted to be scared a little bit, and this movie kind of has a scary poster, so maybe that was the thinking. But yeah, I remember watching it in, well, 2021. I don't even know what the timeline was. I remember, well, actually, I don't know. I remember watching Wind River in my parents' basement, and I thought Prisoners went along with that. I actually don't remember where I watched it, but I do remember it was in October 2021.
Well, we were not
But I
we were
didn't say
not living
that.
together in October of 2021 because you had already graduated from college.
Yeah.
But I was for sure, Cody, that the first time you watched this movie, I thought I showed this to you. I swear we watched it at DeHart before that. Are you
Did
are you
we?
sure that's the first memory you have?
I actually don't even remember that.
In my memory, I think I watched it sometime while living at DeHart and was like, "You got to watch this movie."
Mhm.
Maybe even showed it to you at some point. I know I had Mina watch it while we were living there. But yeah, I mean, it's an incredible entry into like the Denis Villeneuve filmography. And it's one, like I said, that's incredibly rewatchable. So I'm excited every time.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it too. I think, well, I guess like you said, I guess maybe I don't remember my first time, which is funny, but I think in the
That's probably not your
cut
fault.
that
Cody. There
again,
might
sorry.
be extenuating circumstances for you.
I
not
feel like I would
remembering.
remember if I watched the movie.
Maybe
I don't
not.
know.
I could be wrong.
But I'm counting this as my second watch. We can call it my third watch, whatever. But I think the second watch is a lot more enjoyable because I think when I watched it the first time, I didn't really grasp every angle, and there were a lot of things I probably didn't even understand about it, if I'm being honest. But this one, I feel like you know where the story is going in a sense. There's so many like little details that are so much fun, and I think the first watch is great of like guessing where it's gonna go in a sense, which is always fun in a movie. But I think on the second one, like knowing the full story, it does make it a lot better than the first watch, I think.
I can't say the first time I watched it was February of 2021, Cody's, when we were living together. So I do
Okay.
have that on Letterboxd proven.
So maybe you just recommend it to me and I just
Possibly,
blew it off.
maybe
Yeah.
it's probably I think it was kind of a Gone Girl situation where I talked about it for a really long time, and then maybe finally after you moved out, you checked it out.
Hell yeah.
We
That's
can
what I
probably go
normally
back
do.
to the podcast, October of
Yeah,
2021. When we were doing the
probably.
show, you'd probably be like, "Oh, I just watched."
Honestly,
Sinners."
yeah. One of
Roll
those
the
videos
clip.
with our Rex. Yeah. Roll it now, Corbin. Good research. And then the last movie I watched more recently is Prisoners, because I wanted to see it before Dune, see what Denis had up in his tank for that. But yeah, I mean, dark movie. I might be turned around on Jake Gyllenhaal, honestly. 'Cause he's pretty damn good in that movie.
Let's go.
That's the first thing I've seen him in where I'm like, all right, I think I might be wrong about Gyllenhaal, because that is a ridiculous performance. Also, Hugh Jackman. I mean, how did he not win an Oscar? That is insanity to me. He is a psychopath in that movie. Yeah, I mean, it just asks those hard questions that you don't want to think about. But I did like it. I don't know if I'll watch it again anytime soon.
It's a hard movie.
Yeah, it's a hard movie to watch, but I'll probably revisit it in a couple of years because I think it would be fun to watch it a second time through, knowing what happens.
Let's get into our initial thoughts, Cody.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Break it down for me. What do you think about this movie on either the second or third watch?
Yeah. So regardless of the watch, I think this is a really good movie. First off, I mean, this is probably obvious, but like the direction, the cast, I think is really good. The cast specifically, I think I want to harp on to begin here. Just kind of rattle off the chain here, but I forgot Viola Davis was even in this movie. So shout out to her. She's not in it a ton, but I think she is really powerful for the few scenes that she is in. And I kind of just want to shout out the women off the bat. Melissa Liao, I did not realize that she was kind of in this role either. Also, just spoiler alert off the top. I mean, we're going to be going into massive spoilers here immediately. So if you haven't seen this movie, it is spoiler heavy. I would not want this movie spoiled. So go watch it. It's on Netflix. If you don't have Netflix, hit me up and I'll give you my account. I don't really care that much. But Melissa Liao is amazing as sort of the surprise villain at the end, I guess. But like I said, there's definitely inklings throughout of like, wow, this chick sucks. But I just don't think Melissa Liao gets enough credit. She's amazing in The Fighter as well, in kind of a similar like transformative role where she has to change her look a little bit. And I think both of those, especially this one, is just immaculate work. So I definitely want to check out some of the other smaller stuff that she's in because she impressed me a ton on the rewatch. And then as well, Kevin James's wife from Grown Ups. What's her name, Corbin? I don't know.
Maria Bello.
Yeah, Maria Bello. I mean, what else like dramatic stuff is she really in either? I think this movie, it gives opportunities to maybe not like the most well-known dramatic actors, Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't really think of those guys like first as dramatic. Maybe Gyllenhaal more now. But I think the same here with Bella. I can't think of anything else serious that she's been in, and I thought she was really, really good. She's almost like the emotional core of the story, I think. So I think even though maybe the story's not always focused on those three ladies, I think their performances, other than Jackman, are probably the strongest in the movie. Yeah, I'll throw it over to you. I mean, I feel like you could go so many different directions, but I mean, the cast is freaking amazing here.
Yeah, I gotta second that entirely. I think um, it's everyone giving really like top tier performances in their like oeuvre, their entire catalogs. Like you said, Maria Bello. What do you like? What other movies has she been in? She was in Beef earlier this year, the Netflix miniseries with Steven Yeun that
Nice.
me and I watched like half of. But you're 100% right. Like it's just people, even Jackman, a guy who like has had these moments in his career, but really spent a lot of time playing a comic book character. Jake Gyllenhaal has lived in the shadow of Zodiac and has been trying a lot harder, but oftentimes, tries too hard. And I think this is a really nice reserved performance from him. So like I think the direction has a lot to do with that, but then it's also, it comes down to the casting of these people. In terms of story, I think it's incredibly gripping from the first time we watch it to the third, fourth, fifth time. It's extremely emotional. I mean, it makes you ask a lot of questions about yourself and like your own morality and like what would I do? What would you do to get back your kids? How far would you go? And the fact that this is a movie that has some intense torture scenes that you can kind of be empathetic or sympathetic to the characters doing the torture. Like that's powerful in the writing and just like the moral quandaries that it presents to you, I think is really incredible.
I agree completely. You're taking the words straight out of my mouth here, but I mean, it really has like deep emotional questions, like you said, like who's in the wrong here? Like I don't know. Like there's such blurred lines in like the legality of kidnapping and torturing like bad people. Like I said, I feel like in a sense you almost sympathize for both parties, especially knowing the entire story. With those torture scenes, which are crazy intense. Just talking more about the direction, like I think obviously cinematography here is off the charts. I feel like that's
Roger
Denis.
Deakins, man.
Denis, yeah, him and Deakins work well together. Deakins work well. He works well with everybody, but I feel like Denis, like every single one of his movies, just every shot is absolutely beautiful. Like it's just art, every single frame. So shout out to those two. And then pacing wise too, like I feel like this is a fairly long movie. It's like 2.5 hours or so, but it's like it gets into it quick. Like it's 10 minutes in, and like the plot has started. The kids are gone basically. So I like that a lot. Of like you really dive in instantly, and then it's kind of just like, in a sense, it's the sort of downfall I think of Jackman and Detective Loki, which is Gyllenhaal's character's name, which is a great character name by the way too. I mean, shout out to Nee. I don't know if he's a comic book fan. He's got Hugh Jackman in this movie, and he named it Detective Loki. Thought that was fun. And I'll give the main two here. I think the two leads really are Jackman and Gyllenhaal. I think from a screen time standpoint, Jackman's crazy good. I really don't know how he didn't win an Oscar. I think we've talked about this before, and whoever won it this year is probably very deserving. But this is I think one of my favorite performances of all time from an actor. So shout out Hugh.
It's McConaughey for Dallas
Yeah,
Buyers Club.
I mean, like that's that's a great performance. It's hard to argue against that. I think Wolf of Wall Street Leo was the same year.
Beats
Yeah.
Wolf of Wall Street, Leo, Chiwetel
So,
Ejiofor for 12 Years a Slave, Bale
I
and
mean,
Hustle.
that's about as stacked
It's
as it
pretty
gets.
solid. And
So
then you got like Bruce Dern in Nebraska as your more, indie pick, Alexander Payne, obviously in the
yeah, I mean, the fact that Jackman wasn't nommed, it's kind of atrocious if I'm being honest. But he probably wasn't going to win anyway.
I mean,
Just
this is an intense genre movie, and it also has a very dark subject matter. And if there's one thing that we've seen about the Oscars in the last couple of years, is they love a feel good story more than anything.
Yeah, I guess shout out Coda. And I did want to shout out Jake Gyllenhaal as well. I think from what I've seen of him, this is definitely up there with his best. He's doing like this weird, like twitchy, like eye thing the entire time, which I think is really fun. And I guess it's but he's like blinking the entire time. Like every time he's on screen, he's blinking like 10 times, which I thought was just a fun choice. And it kind of fits his character in a sense too. But I wanted to say too, Terrance Howard is in this movie. I want to hear your thoughts, but I thought he was just okay.
Yeah, he's fine. I mean, he doesn't. His role is basically just to be like the wet blanket dad
Yeah.
next to Hugh Jackman and be really teary eyed most of the time, which he does
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, I thought he could easily be replaced, which I will later. But yeah, the cast is amazing. Past that, like you said, I think the morality questions are really good. Sort of like you're questioning the entire movie, like who's the good guys, who the bad guys are. Like I thought Hugh Jackman like might have been in on it the first time I watched this movie, just because. Well, a couple things. I don't think I fully heard Paul Dano like say that to him in the parking lot the first time. This time I had the nice feature of pausing it, rewinding it 10 seconds, turning the volume up, being like, oh
Subtitles help.
shit. Yeah, he actually said that, which is really messed up, but really cool detail that I like in there. And then at the end, when Viola Davis's daughter gets found and Hugh shows up at the hospital and she's like, something, something, you were there. And he just like sprints out and Jake Gyllenhaal's coming after him. I'll get into his plan later too, which I have questions about, but I think like at all times this movie is twisting and turning, and especially on the first watch, I have no idea kind of where it's going, and I think that's something really cool about it.
It definitely does a really good job of keeping you guessing. And I I don't think I ever believed that Jackman was in on it, but it definitely makes you like think that Loki is seeing him as a suspect for sure, and you can
Yeah.
understand why. Something that I think is really brilliant is that this movie like very easily could just be like exploitative and like play at your emotions in a really unfair way and manipulate the audience. But I don't think it does, and I think a lot of that comes in from like really heartfelt performances from the actors and just like really deft directorial efforts that manages to skirt that line where it doesn't come off as being exploitative.
Yeah. And I think with that, like it is kind of ultra realistic in a sense too. Like I was saying with Kevin James's wife,
Well, it's interesting.
Maria Bello, is that her name?
Yeah, Maria Bello.
But her grieving process, like she's in denial a shit ton. And I think that's cool, like how they portrayed that. And then like the next stage after that is just like extreme grief. Like I said, it's kind of an emotional toll watching this movie. I think maybe that's why it took me a little bit to rewatch it. Because I was like, damn, like I don't know if I can go through all those
Definitely.
emotions again. But the story definitely it's necessary for a rewatch, but I think it is a tough rewatch just from an emotional standpoint.
I know you say it's super realistic, and I do agree. Like the emotions and the feelings feel super real. But something that I like about it is that it's almost mythological and almost like fabulistic because you've got like Detective Loki and you've got the like weird snakes in the box. Like there's all this like kind of like mystical, like you're like it just feels like one step beyond reality. And I think that's something that the Denis does really effectively in his movie right before this, Enemy, where he first worked with Jake Gyllenhaal. It's kind of like the whole time it's like, is this a real like supernatural? Like it leaves you guessing. And I think this movie skirts the edge enough to kind of be like, this is all symbolic in some ways, and it's saying a lot more, and it's not really just a kidnapping story. I think it's got this weird mystical air to it.
I agree. And I think there's kind of a couple parts with that, but I feel like the cult family, I think that
Yeah, and
adds
like
to
the
it.
the maze stuff is like obviously
Yeah.
very heavy, like Greek mythological imagery. It's not like too deep. It doesn't go too deep into it, but it's right there on the surface.
I think maybe Denis kind of just has that vibe in his movies. Like, I mean, not to talk about Arrival a ton, but Arrival's the exact same,
Oh
where
yeah,
it's kind of like super realistic, and then the last act, it's like, oh shit, like we're throwing all of that out the window. So I wouldn't be surprised if that like this movie took a turn like that. And then along with it, I feel like another cool ambiance thing, which is your background, is it's pouring all the time, like it's pouring raining.
very Fincherian. It's like Seven, you know.
Yeah,
It's
I was gonna say that. Do you think this is kind of like an homage in a sense? to Seven a
I
little
definitely
bit?
think so. Yeah, I mean, it's not every scene, but it's damn near every scene in this movie. It's raining or snowing.
Yeah, and I mean it's a serious detective procedural that goes through all the twists and turns of a case and stuff. I think there's a lot of Fincher
Some great
inspiration here.
insert shots used the newspaper. Dad shot himself in the head. Some expert stuff.
I wanted to ask you too. I guess this is kind of off track, but did you notice the his dad, Paul Dano's dad, wore that necklace? Like even on a rewatch or the first time, dude, I did not notice he had the maze necklace. I noticed it on the dead guy in the priest's basement, But both times or the 3 times I watched this, I never noticed when originally they go into Paul Dano's room that his dad had the necklace on.
In like a picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I picked up on that. There's like the stuff where
Because that's the
obviously
reveal at the end. Because
right. I mean, I know that guy, the dead guy, is supposed to be his dad, but like,
oh, is it? Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
well, not his
didn't
real
I didn't
dad.
put that
It's
together.
her wife. But there's some indications early in the movie. They talk about, sorry, her husband.
Yeah.
Earlier in the movie, the guy that goes and kills himself or whatever at the priest's place, he talks about how he has a family, and then also
Yeah.
she talks about early in the movie how her husband just up and left one day, and like,
Yeah.
it
It's his Kool-Aid recipe.
lays the seeds very early for you.
Yeah, I forget. I didn't even make that connection. I just figured it was some other weirdo in the family because you got David Dismalshin just doing his thing, which we'll talk about. But yeah, that probably is her husband. That's a good point.
That is the area where I will get a little bit into the bad things.
Agreed.
Something I don't know more. It can get a little into the weeds, and maybe
Yeah.
it doesn't quite work as like a true mystery story, but on pure vibe, pure performances, and the emotional feeling that you have at the end of it, it's incredible. Last thing I wanted to throw at you, Kody, and I'm always coming in with the symbolism and the what's the meaning, what's the greater meaning in the context of the world. What do you think about this movie as an allegory for the U.S.'s response post 9/11 and the way that we reacted to the terrorist attacks on the Twin Towers? You have a character at the center of this that is very clearly a right-wing Christian, very patriotic American nationalist guy who, when his children are taken and when his wife is saying to him, "You made me feel so safe. You told us you could protect us from anything," just like the American government says, his response and his reaction is to torture somebody who's adjacently related for information to no avail. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I do see the connection. I would have never gotten there myself, if I'm being honest. But yeah, that specific line too is tough, I think, in the movie. But also too, I mean, I don't know, during the war on terror, when we captured people, did they say like, what's the Paul Dano line? They started crying when I left. They whisper that in our ears. I don't know, maybe, but
It definitely, like, you can. I think
He
if you
knew-
if you start to think about it too much, it like
Yeah.
the metaphor gets lost. But
It's there,
I think
though.
in terms of just like the emotional response, another movie that's like this, 28 Days Later, where it's like about this rage virus that infects people and is taking over the world. Like, it's that idea, it's that feeling, it's that like you're so hurt and you're so destroyed, you're gonna act in a very inhumane and vile way as like a reactionary response. And I think in terms of the way, because you also see like the Viola Davis response is kind of like she's like, well, I don't like what's happening, but if this gets us results, like that's kind of like the bystander American. Like, I think there is definitely some feelings there.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you could definitely make connections. My thought kind of process with that is like Hugh Jackman is like, oh, the government failed me, so now he's got to go and do his
Oh,
own
yeah.
thing in a sense too. So yeah, there's tons of different angles. The Viola Davis angle, and like I said, she doesn't have too many scenes, but I think like even psychologically, all of her stuff is riveting. Like she just walks into this is like, hey, what's going on? Like, oh, this is really bad, and then she gets to like that desperate point where she's like, hey, we might as well try. So I thought her kind of just character standpoint was really cool.
Viola Davis, doesn't matter how little you give her, she's
When
gonna
is she
kill it.
bad? Yeah, when is
Yeah,
she bad? Never. Yeah.
Let's move on to IMDb Known For.
Do I know you? I mean, where do I know you from?
Kody, let's start with our director, Denis Villeneuve. His 4, Dune, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, and Incendies. Of course, Dune and Arrival, the 2 other movies of his that we have covered on this podcast. He's not directed a lot of movies. I would say these 4 make sense for his big 4. Incendies is his debut feature. Have it on there. Kind of put him on the map. The only thing I know Sicario is rather popular as well,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't replace Arrival or Dune. So
I think it's fair. I've not seen Incendies, so I might have to put that on my list. I mean, out of these 4 showing, that is the highest IMDb rating as well. So that says a lot because these are some very good movies. Obviously, we've done an Arrival episode. Go check that out. We've done a Dune episode. Go check that out. I'm not as big of a Dune fan, I think, as you are, but I'm due for a rewatch on that too. Blade Runner 2049, I think, is a modern classic, if I'm being completely honest. I think that movie's amazing. The fact that he directed that a year after Arrival as well, shout out to him, man. That is a crazy back-to-back performance. But yeah, I do like Sicario a good amount too, if I'm being honest. I think Daniel Kaluuya and just like the cinematography of that movie are both crazy underrated. I feel like people forget that Daniel Kaluuya was even in that. Emily Blunt is of course great. And then you got the crazy killers, Brolin and the other guy. But I don't know. Obviously not having seen on some of these. Is that how you say it? I don't know. But sure, leave it up there. It seems like a good one.
Yeah, I mean, just by nature of debut feature, he's a guy. He doesn't really have a bad movie.
I mean, he's
think
got so
everyone.
many movies in his future too. Like he's really is a young filmmaker, just
Oh
crazy.
yeah, I mean, Dune Part Two. I'm obviously very excited for. I can announce it here because based on timing, I've got it in our fantasy draft for 2024. I secured the #1 pick, so I will be taking it,
Not officially.
and we'll be heading it. It's happening, Cody. I will have it
We'll see.
at the release of this episode. And then Rendezvous with Rama, which is this other, movie that's getting kind of talked about in development still that, might come after Dune, which is basically kind of like Arrival on steroids, is what I've heard.
I'm on board. Yeah, you don't. That's all I need to go to the theater. So yeah.
And then there has been talk as well about he's gonna go for the Dune trifecta and adapt Dune Messiah, which is like the second book potentially.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm surprised. He's kind of going the franchise direction early. I feel like a lot
He
of
just loves
directors.
Dune, man. He's a Dune head. He's a spice head.
I mean, that's fair. I feel like that sort of story has been due for like a really good kind of iteration for a while. So I think it fits his style perfectly too. But yeah, I feel like directors are kind of just scared of franchises today. At least the good directors.
Hugh Jackman, Les Mis, X-Men, Logan, and X-Men Origins Wolverine. I think we both have a movie that needs to hop in here, and it's The Prestige. Get
Oh yeah.
out, get out X-Men Origins. That is atrocious.
I mean, I don't know what it's doing. Yeah.
I guess it's because it's like it's like the one with him in the title, like it's his movie. Although, to be fair, X-Men 1 through 3, like he is the lead character of those movies, although it is an ensemble.
Yeah, I mean, so is X-Men Origins Wolverine. You got Taylor Kitsch, you got the whole crew. You got
Liev
Patrick
Schreiber.
Stewart in a great role. But yeah, I feel like that's an obvious takeout here. I don't mind Les Mis that much, just because I feel like you need some sort of musical, and it's either that or The Greatest Showman. So I'd probably lean Les Mis on that one. But I feel like his filmography is kind of weird. What about Real Steel, man? Where's that on here?
That's true. Yeah. See, that's the thing, Cody. We talked about at the beginning of the episode. I guess we've done 4 Jackman movies because I
I
had
forgot about
completely
that.
forgot about X-Men Days of Future Past. When you said
Yeah.
that at the top of the episode, I was like, that's not one of the 3 that I had think of, but I couldn't remember Real Steel. Yes,
So
of
you
course.
did pick Jackman for a while.
I did
I
pick
haven't
Real
hogged them
Steel.
all on my own. Yeah.
But we blocked that episode out.
Yeah, true. Is there anything else from his filmography that you'd want? I mean, Prisoners obviously too, but I can't think of anything else big. I feel like.
Yeah, I think just doing two X-Men and then filling it in with Les Mis and The Prestige.
Yeah, I agree with that. What about the new Australia series? Should that
Fairway
be on
Downs.
there? Yeah.
I'm good. I'll pass. The
I
Sun,
think everybody is.
the most reviled movie of 2022.
Shout out.
Supposed to get him an Oscar, but it didn't happen. Sad. Jake Gyllenhaal. His 4 are Nightcrawler, Brokeback Mountain, Donnie Darko, and Prisoners. So pretty solid list here.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty encompassing of his career. Obviously, we haven't had a movie on here since 2014's Nightcrawler, but I don't really know. Is there a late stage Gyllenhaal that deserves?
Yeah, maybe if they wanted to go like Far From Home, I feel like that would kind of make sense just from
Southpaw,
IMDb.
maybe, but that's only a year later.
Yeah. He really hasn't been.
He has a
put
lot
up
of
good.
solid supporting performances in movies like Okja. I think he's fine in Spider-Man Far From Home. And then you have just like some bad movies like The Guilty and Ambulance and In the Covenant, which they're not bad. They're just like fine movies.
Yeah. I mean, the one for me here, and I feel like it'll probably echo with you as well, is I'm surprised Zodiac isn't on the list. I feel like those first 3 are pretty hard to take off here. Like Nightcrawler, I think that's definitely up there for one of his best performances. Brokeback Mountain, same. I mean, that's pretty iconic. Donnie Darko, that's kind of his breakout and his maybe one of the things he's most known for. Um, I'm a bit surprised that Prisoners is on here over Zodiac, honestly. I think you could kind of put one of those in on the other, and I wouldn't really care too much.
Prisoners is the better performance than
Oh,
Zodiac,
yeah.
so I'm
Oh, yeah.
and I mean they're both really good movies. I would also be okay with either one being there. Yeah,
I
I know
like the choice.
you're not a big Zodiac head.
I just don't like his performance in Zodiac at all. I think it's pretty bad, but he's great in this movie, so shout out.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. We've already talked about the performances a little bit, but I just wanted to double down on that fully. Like you said, the blinking from Jake Gyllenhaal, never seen a man blink so impressively. And also he has a great keyboard smash in this movie.
Yes.
Which one's better, Andrew Garfield in The Social Network or Jake Gyllenhaal in Prisoners?
Do you mean Andrew Garfield in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where he smashes the calculator and the subway coins come out?
That's true. That is a classic move because then
like
it
that.
leads to his father's secret lair where he finds out that he, in fact, was chosen to be the Spider-Man.
Chosen Spider. Yeah, but that was definitely on mine. Goodbye Keyboard. I'll tell you what, he smacks the crap out. I want to see like how many takes that took. I guess similar to Garfield, like they did like what 50 takes for that for no
The
reason.
cleanup, though.
Those keys are flying everywhere, man. I need the behind the scenes. But yeah, I agree. I did want to point out just like specific acting scenes too. You already mentioned it. I mean, the torture scene with Hugh Jackman and Paul Dano kind of going mano a mano is absolutely incredible. The hammer hit on the wall, just unbelievably intense.
Improvised?
I hope not.
I watched the old Paul Dano career retrospective, and the final movie he talked about was Prisoners. And they played that clip, and he goes, "Can't say I was really ready for that one." But he's like, I was in very safe hands. He said Hugh Jackman was a darling. He was the nicest person ever, so it made those scenes okay. But I mean, Paul Dano playing a role that could very easily be in the ugly category, be very problematic. But I think he does it in a really laid back way. It's all about the physicality of it more than anything. He's just into it. And I think it is really solid performance from him. Obviously he doesn't have to, give a lot of line deliveries or anything, but I think it's impressive. He really becomes that person.
Yeah.
Viola is incredible, like we've already talked about. And then this Hugh Jackman, the emotional range all across the board is incredible. Whether he's yelling at Gyllenhaal, telling him off about, wanting to go have a drink, or like you said, performing torture and beating the shit out of a sink.
Yeah. And just a few more scenes I got to shout out with Hugh here as well. I guess it's with Jake G as well, but I think when they're showing like photographs of some of the clothes they found, I thought that stuff was really powerful.
Damn bunny sock.
Yeah, just really sad. And then like Jackman like immediately blaming Gyllenhaal. Like, what were you doing? You were following me. You weren't out there. I thought that like all the intense like mano a mano scenes kind of in my background I thought were really good. And also too just like Jackman's character of like in a sense he's kind of like losing his faith throughout the entire movie,
this,
which is pretty much Melissa Leo's I guess main goal in life, which is pretty messed up obviously, but I think him and Gyllenhaal, obviously with Keyboard Smash, kind of both like get to their breaking point. So I think that's really cool, like seeing both those characters. They're on such different paths too. Because you have Gyllenhaal, who's like, oh, he solved every case he's ever had, which that's pretty annoying if I'm being honest. I don't love that. I just like
that to me is again the mythological, like the fabulistic nature of it, where it's like Gyllenhaal first, like, no, what cop is this cool, Kody? Like what?
True.
Like,
I don't know.
What detective has that haircut and the tattoos and like the way he dresses? Like it's not believe that like that's where it steps away from reality. But I think that's the stuff that works really well.
Yeah, I agree too. And then kind of fast forwarding, I guess, to the end a little bit, but two of my favorite scenes are when Gyllenhaal, first shows up at Melissa Leo's house, and that's really intense where she's trying to get, this needle ready and stuff, and then they have like a super quick like, kind of shootout in a sense. But he gets obviously scraped on the face and
grazer.
Yeah, and then after that, I think probably my favorite scene, which it's so hard to say because like that Jackman interrogation scene is so good. But for some reason, just like the ambiance and the vibes of Gyllenhaal driving to the hospital as fast as he can, blood streaming all over his face. He can't see.
It's
He's
a
got a kid in the background who's been drugged and she's been missing for a week. She probably hasn't eaten for a week. This could be the last couple hours of her lives. It's pouring raining. Of course it is. Like, it's just so intense. And I think like just from a visual perspective as well, it was pretty much immaculate.
Yeah, I think I've said it before. Like, that's probably one of my favorite like directed scenes ever. I think
Yeah.
it's something so simple, like you said. It's literally a guy driving to a hospital in the snow, but like the way the car is shot from behind as he's weaving, and as you and see in my background, like the way the car weaves in between, like it's an intense chase scene unlike anything else I've seen before. And of course, when you pair the Deacon's cinematography with it, it's fucking beautiful. You've got, like you said, the light flashing on his face. Something that I think Deakins does well always, but especially in this movie, is the way he plays with light. And there's a lot of scenes that are very dark, and it's intentionally so. It's more about what you can't see than what you can see. There's the RV parked at the gas station when Detective Loki first walks up, and you've got like all this black night around him, and you kind of just see him walking up in the mirror, which I love as a shot. When he opens the basement door of the priest's house, and it's like that below ground shot looking up at him, and it's just darkness all around him. Super sick. Paul Dano's bloody face with like just the single keyhole of light when he's put into the sensory deprivation chamber is so incredible. Just all those instances of light and darkness. And then of course, like I said, the hospital scene is shot incredibly well.
Yeah. I didn't really think about like light and darkness. You're 100%. He uses darkness so efficiently, and I'm not sure if they work together on Sicario, but there's like a super similar shot in that where it's like light and darkness. So shout out to Nee. I think that's 100% kind of his game plan going in, and he uses darkness really, really kind of efficiently, which I think is cool. One other scene I forgot to mention too with Gyllenhaal that I really like is, well, the couple interrogation scenes that he
It is
does have.
Deakins. Sicario is Deakins.
Nice. I mean, it makes sense. It looks just as beautiful as this movie, I feel like.
Yeah, I think he went on the run there because it's Blade Runner
2049. Yeah.
Deakins
It
as
had to
well,
have
so.
been Deakins. Yeah, that's the most beautiful
And then
movie I've
Arrival,
ever
of
seen.
course, as well.
Yeah, classic. But I want to talk about Gyllenhaal's acting a little bit more too. That
Cinematographer actually is Bradford Young for Arrival. I remember we talked about
Yeah.
in our episode. Sorry.
I feel like that's not surprising actually. That doesn't really look like a Deakins movie as much
It's a little
as
different.
his other ones do. Yeah. But Gyllenhaal interrogating Dano off the beginning, where he's just got him like stood up against a wall. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And then he's like, can I sit down? He's like, nah. And then I thought that the Smolchen scene, which I will talk about a little bit, and I do have some
Wow.
problems with it, but I thought just like his interactions were super intense. I feel like that moment too is like he's really losing it. Like he's kind of desperate to solve this case. He's kind of getting nowhere. So I think everything with like Gyllenhaal one-on-one acting wise is some of the best I've seen from him. So props to him. Like I said, I've been a hater in the past, but for me personally, this is my favorite Jake Gyllenhaal performance. I think it's a little bit better than Nightcrawler. I think Rene Russo may outshine him a little bit in that movie. Although Hugh definitely outshines him in this movie too, but I think he's really, really good.
Gyllenhaal is at his best when he has a great actor to play against.
True.
Brokeback
Yep.
Mountain.
Put him alone, not great.
I wanted to go back to the thing you talked about with like the religious themes and all that stuff. I think there's some really interesting stuff, especially when you take Gyllenhaal and Jackman. Like you said, this is two people that are both basically at like their wits' end by the end of this movie. They're both so set on finding these girls, and they've, you have Gyllenhaal, who has literally never not solved a case before, and then Jackman, this guy who's always protected his family, always been extremely prepared for literally any situation, and they're both like put in this position that they've never experienced before. But it's two sides of a coin, and they kind of represent two different things. So obviously Hugh Jackman is the Christian man, the super religious man. You see the movie opens with him saying the Lord's Prayer as he's hunting a deer.
Yeah.
When they walk over to Thanksgiving, there's a very purposeful shot of a cross hanging in their rear view mirror that they're kind of that it does a focus rack to. You see him very clearly wearing the cross necklace after the girls are taken. There's a scene of him listening to like a preacher on the radio. He says the Lord's Prayer again, more that's kind of overlaid in the scene when Dismalkian shoots himself. And then at that point, when he's torturing Dano and he's saying the Lord's Prayer, he can't even finish it. Yeah. And he's so at the point where like he's lost his faith, and he has to put his faith into something that isn't God, and that is Detective Loki. This man who kind of represents everything that is non-typical Judeo-Christian faith. He's kind of like paganism to a certain degree. His name comes from Norse mythology, obviously Detective Loki. You've got the tattoo on his neck. I can't remember the exact symbol, but it is, this particular star symbol. He's wearing a Freemason ring. The movie opens with him in this like interest in the Chinese zodiac. Like all of this stuff I think is very purposeful, and it's kind of the like I said, Judeo-Christian views of the world. He's kind of turning to different mythologies, different belief systems. And you kind of have to have both a little bit to save the girls in the end.
Yeah. I like that a lot. Like I said, I feel like the deterioration in a sense of Jackman's faith is really, really interesting. And I love that opening too. I think it's almost like a haunting opening of, and it does have parallels too. It's obviously just like the shot in the woods of them hunting the deer, but everything's like so still and quiet. And then like a little bit later on, it's like sort of a similar shot where when the girls do get taken, they just like zoom in on a tree for like
Trees
5
are
seconds.
a huge symbol throughout this
Yeah.
movie for sure.
And I just think like the style and sort of the purpose of that is really cool. And then kind of just playing roll credits, like I think that's a dope opening because it does introduce like those religious themes right away. And then I think the ending is almost perfect as well. I've heard different things on this, so I want to hear your opinion, but I like movies that just cut you off at kind of a
I
really
love the
cool
endings.
moment. Yeah, I think just like it's weird because like how did they not find him already? Obviously like all the motors and stuff, but I feel
If
like
he's been blowing on that whistle, right? Like
yeah,
it leads you to believe
yeah.
at some
Because
point.
obviously it's like, oh, the motors are taken off, so that's why it's quieter and that's why you can hear him. But I don't know. I just love that shot of Gyllenhaal being like, nah, like I'm hearing things, and then he does it again, and it kind of just cuts to
It's
black.
just ambiguous enough, right? Like it knows the audience is smart enough to infer what probably happens next. But also, like, if you want to believe that maybe Gyllenhaal just goes home and like leave, like you can believe that too. It leaves it open for
I
you.
guess I would hope you wouldn't believe that. I mean, this is dark enough movie, but yeah, I think both opening and closing were done really effectively.
Yeah, and then of course you said roll credits. The title of this movie, Prisoners. I wanted to talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit. I think I don't think anybody says it, but like both
No.
Gyllenhaal and Jackman themselves are they're prisoners in this world, and then of course the girls are literal prisoners.
Yeah, that was my backup final question. Who's the prisoners in the
The
story,
prisoner.
dude? Who is it? Because it's literally everybody. I mean, you can name every single character, and one form or another, they are in a social prison, emotional prison, literal prison. There's a lot of those too, unfortunately. But yeah, I think the name it really does a good job of being like you could put it in any character, and it kind of makes sense for their journey throughout, which is cool.
Last thing I'll hit for the good, and it kind of ties in with the religious stuff, but the quote of making children disappear is the war we wage with God. We try and take away faith and turn people into demons like you. Obviously, that is going back to the religious thing. It's like very thematic of what the movie's kind of all about. Again, it goes back to also the 9/11 thing, where it's like you're being turned into a demon because of something someone else has done to you, and you're honestly causing more harm.
Yeah, that was the top of my ugly, but it's effective. I mean, it's a really compelling villain too, because I mean, I get you can see their side. Obviously, I don't think anybody really agrees with that sort of philosophy, but I think it really does. It's like a twist of like, oh, she's the villain. It's like some old lady. What's her problem? And then it's like the darkest thing possible. So I do think it's pretty compelling, and yeah, it gives Melissa Leo a lot to do, and she absolutely kills it.
The bad, Kody. What's the bad stuff?
Yeah, I do have a couple big things. This is not a 5-star movie for me. I will say
Me
that.
neither.
There's one massive thing, and I guess we can kind of start off there. I'll talk about Paul Dano, and I have a lot of questions surrounding his character more than bad, I think. But the character that I don't really like, and I don't really think needs to be in this movie, is David Dismalchian. I think as an actor, he's awesome. Like if you've seen our underrated actors podcast, he was in my top 5, I think, pretty easily. And he has like a decent role. Like he really doesn't get kind of roles like this a lot. So I'm happy for him specifically. But him just being like a copycat artist,
I
I
mean,
didn't
he's the
even know.
bait and switch weirdo. It's the thing that we always talk about, Cody.
Yeah,
It's where it's like he's the guy that you're supposed to think is the real bad guy, but then it's like oh no, he was actually also, like, if
I
you
don't
tried to tell
understand.
me, like, I'm a little confused on that
Yeah,
part of the story,
I
honestly.
don't get his connection to the
It
family.
was that
Like,
he got
does he?
kidnapped and then escaped as a child, and then has, like, been
Okay,
basically, like, reliving because the whole thing
right.
is he's obsessed with the mazes because this guy, he tells the kids to solve a maze, and it's an
And you can get
unsolvable
out. Yeah,
maze, and right, like,
like
this is all the stuff where it's like, this movie works so well without even focusing or caring about this stuff. It's like it's almost just good decoration on top. You don't need it
yeah.
to understand what the heart and the emotion of this movie's about. I'm fine with it being there, but I don't think it necessarily it's not a highlight of the movie.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of my main point is it's not necessary. Like, it's okay. I don't hate it by any means. Like, it's David Dismalcian in a creepy role. He's gonna kill it. But like when the story is at its end, it's like I don't really get why that was in there. It's just to kind of throw you off the scent of like, is this real? Are they dead? Are they alive? It's there to keep you guessing, I think. But once we get to the end on the rewatch, that was the thing for me. I was like, I remember this happening, but now that I'm watching it again, I don't really see why it needs to be in here. And I feel like that's the thing too, where it's like this movie could go from like 245 to like 215, like in a one edit like that, just wiping him out completely, which I'm glad they didn't, because like I said, I like David Dismalcian. But one other thing too, I think his character brings out the worst of Gyllenhaal's character, Detective Loki. I mean, first off, he can't even catch a guy like hiding
Yeah,
in
I
the
was gonna say it's
woods.
just some terrible police work
Yeah.
anytime Desmalchian is
Like
around.
he's hiding out in like a treehouse and he just like kicks him and runs and gets away. And then secondly, along with that, kind of my big thing is why does Jake Gyllenhaal not have a partner? Where is this guy's part? Isn't this a detective story? Don't they all have partners? Has
That's what
the
he's not a real cop. He's fake.
have movies been
People like him
lying
don't
to me?
exist.
He's a lone wolf because he solved every case, I guess. But it would have been there's a couple instances where it'd be nice to have a partner. That chase is definitely the first one. The
Well, and the
second
thing I
one,
wanted to say is like I think his captain or what like he's such a wet blanket nothing character and like I
yeah,
was the first scene is that he was in I was like, "Oh yeah, this guy's going bad right away. Like I'm recasting him." It's also like weird that he's like not really around that much. And then I was watching the movie and I was like, "This guy's actually in the movie way more than I remembered."
yeah.
And you could either just like cut him out or just change it. I don't think he works for me.
I agree. He's forgettable too, and it's the same thing where it's like he doesn't really add anything to the story other than he allows Hugh Jackman to kidnap Paul Dano. That's kind of the big thing, I guess.
Right, yeah.
But also too, like you're saying, the Dismulsion suicide scene. I mean, what are we doing here, guys? Like, are these good cops? Are they bad cops? These guys just brazenly walk in and just have their guns ready to go, and Dismulsion just takes it straight from him. So I feel like in that scene too, it would have been good for Gyllenhaal to have a partner. Somebody who doesn't have to run in and basically just give their gun to a prime suspect in a murder. But also too, like, why did he kill himself, Corbin? He didn't do anything. He buried
Well, he
what?
admitted to doing it.
Right, but I mean,
He
justice
tried
is
to
gonna.
say he did it. He
I know.
stole clothes from their house to take them, and then yeah, it's a
Yeah,
whole thing. Yeah.
it's strange. Other than that, well, actually, I'll throw it at you. What, you got some bad here?
Well, kind of going along with that is the way he ends up at the priest's house and finds that dead body is kind of all just like weird luck and happenstance. And like maybe you can say that of like, oh, well, that's how, oftentimes these things get solved. Like there's just going to be some luck. But like he's going around to houses of people who are on the sex offender registry is the whole thing. And he goes to this house because this priest obviously touched some kids in the past. Also another commentary I'm sure that Denis having there, figure of Christianity, shunned from the faith, blah, blah, blah. But even then, like he goes to this house, and if it wasn't because the priest was passed out, drunk, and he like
Yeah,
looked around, like he would have never found this dead body. And then also it's like it's a dead body that's not really important until the end of the movie that it's the original husband of the kidnapper. Like I think if there was a better connection for how he found the priest's house, I would like it more, but it is kind of just luck that simultaneously this guy went to a priest who was a sex offender. Like if you had just gone to I guess maybe they're all priests, I don't
yeah. I was
know,
gonna
but
say yeah,
like
it's probably most of them, but
like it's kind of a weird series of events in a movie that otherwise feels like it fits together nicely.
yeah, I agree. I think that is just a moment of pure luck in a sense, and Even the fact that he found like that secret door, I don't even know how
Right,
he
like, yeah,
kind of
he
she's like, oh, just move
hell
move
of a
the
cop.
fridge for no reason. I don't I don't get it, but yeah, that is a cool scene though, and I do like that reveal at the end with the twist. So I don't mind it that much. My other big plot point I definitely want to talk about too was Hugh Jackman's plan at the very end. What's this guy doing, Corbin?
I don't know, man.
He's trying to kill himself. Like, I get maybe he's suicidal, but he finally cracked the case, and then he's just gonna dog it, not allow the cops to follow him. Why does he not want backup? Especially when he's
Right.
not even gonna have his gun in a place where he can start waving it around. He's got it in his tool bag, and then also before he even gets in the tool bag, he reveals to
That
Melissa
he
Leo.
knows, yeah.
So I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. I guess he brought his whistle. That's all he needed.
Well, no,
But
he didn't bring the whistle, Cody. The whistle was
it's
down in the
true.
hole. That's the whole thing, which
He didn't even
that's
bring his damn
something
whistle.
I don't like. I don't love the whistle. And honestly, like, I think it's a cute, not cute, but like it's a good way to end the movie. I love the ending of the movie. I love the sound of it, but I hate the way it's set up because like they're constantly talking about the stupid fucking whistle. And the whole thing is that like she lost the whistle 130 days ago and then she just remembers it. And that's why she goes to get it from the house and then they get taken and she has the whistle when they get taken. Like, come on. It's just all too much. I don't care about the damn whistle.
Yeah, and also, I mean, theoretically, if she had it, I believe Detective Loki, when he went to that house originally, he went and was like looking at that car. I believe at that moment they probably were underneath, unless they were hidden in the house, I guess. But I mean, that would have been a good time to blow it. So I don't know what she's waiting for. But yeah, it's kind of just like Ex Machina whistle in a sense, just because that ending is so cool, I think. But I don't mind it.
Deus
Huge,
ex whistle though.
yeah, he was just an idiot. That was my main point. But do you have anything else? I kind of have a spiel about Paul Dano's character, I guess, but
Kid actors aren't bad, but the teen actors aren't the best. Dylan Minnette and
Dylan Minnette,
whoever
yeah.
the girl is, I mean,
Unknown.
not great.
Yeah, Dylan Minnette, he's an Agents of Shield veteran, so I don't know. Surprised he got cast in a
Zoe
dramatic.
Soul is her name.
Yeah, I was looking at her IMDb or on Letterbox, and I don't think she's been in
The
too much
Purge
else.
Anarchy, apparently.
Yeah, that's what I
I
thought.
don't know.
Shout
Yeah.
out.
Okay, let's hear it. Paul Dano.
Well, it's mostly just like his character. Like, obviously, I feel like the easy answer is like he has severe mental issues and he has trouble speaking. But the big thing for me is, like, is he evil? Because he tells Hugh Jackman straight up to his face, like, they started crying when I left. Like, that's pretty messed up, bro. Like, I think that line specifically is kind of just out of character from him, or is they didn't cry until I left. Did I say that? I don't know. But I think that's a really haunting delivery too when he says that to him in the parking lot. Like I watched that scene like 5 times, him just saying that to Hugh Jackman because I was like, holy shit, like that's a really good performance. And then as well, he's like hanging the dog by its leash with the Batman
And then
jingle.
sings Batman, yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like that's really telling of like he knows where the children are and he's a dick. But then like I don't understand like everything past that when he gets kidnapped. Like, does he have allegiance to Melissa Leo in a sense? Just from like does he think like
What's
she's
his
her
mom?
mother?
I mean, it's a tough. I think it's kind of a little Stockholm syndrome, I guess. I mean, he's a kid who was kidnapped, and then they
Yeah.
just kept him because they liked him, and obviously he had some weird. They say it was an accident with the snakes, and that's what's caused like the mental issues with him, which I think is also a
Okay.
little
Yeah, that doesn't
murky.
really make sense. Also, too, I mean, so with the RV whole situation, so he was just driving to his old house, I guess, and just like
Well,
camping
it's
outside.
also unclear if he took the kids for Melissa Leo, or
Yeah,
she was there with them, or that's unsure.
that was another question I had too. You know, like, did he do this on his own? Because if not, I mean, that makes
Like, is
sense,
his whole bit that he just goes out and finds kids
right?
for his mom? That's pretty bad. Or was it? I mean, because apparently he's allowed to drive the RV around, and that's kind of like where he sleeps. That's the whole thing. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Also,
Like,
he's just like,
did she say, "Hey, go find somebody for me," or is it kind of like, "Man, this guy just keeps showing up with kids"? Like, I don't
yeah.
know. It's
That's
leave it
fair, and
up
then
to you.
also, he's always talking in riddles for some for some reason. His one to Hugh Jackman is they're in the maze. I mean, I guess that makes sense if you're
It's
looking at the
true.
maze necklaces, but, that's pretty dumb, like, I feel like that if this kid strung one sentence together at any point in time, like, this movie would be a lot shorter, but, yeah, I kinda just don't understand his allegiances, kind of what his actions were throughout, which again, it's supposed to be like that, but I wish there was just a little bit more kind of, I guess, character explanation surrounding Paul Dano, because he is really good in this, I think.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair because they're trying to balance the act of like, well, he did kind of do it, or maybe he did it, but so like you
I
have to
mean, he's
like,
definitely not a good guy.
yeah,
Like, I don't know if he deserved, everything he got, but yeah, it's tough.
that is the central question.
It has like the morality issues that I think are really cool, but yeah, just a throwaway line at the end by Melissa Leo, I think would have solved a lot of my problems surrounding that.
Speaking of Cody, the ugly. This movie, I don't know if you knew this, originally had an NC-17 rating.
Ooh.
When it first screened, and they cut back some of the torture scenes and I guess some mentions of pedophilia. But yeah, Cody, the torture is pretty gross. Like even in the current cut, the rated R version of this movie, like it's visceral, man. And obviously all of the Hugh Jackman kind of abandoning his family to focus on this and be so obsessed with it is also very tough. He's late to the vigil that they're having because of it. Terrance Howard is. And then of course, once you get into like the torture box, the sensory deprivation with the hot and cold water, that's just like, it's so bad.
Yeah. That is interesting. I'm not gonna lie. I think I would be interested in watching that cut. I don't know if I would ever want to watch it again after, but yeah, I feel like that is the clear ugly is like the intensity of those scenes, like we're saying, is it's kind of one of the things good about the movie, but I don't enjoy watching it. Like I don't know, it's intense, but not in a good way. Especially if like some of it was improvised, I guess, by Hugh. That makes it even a little bit more scarier. But yeah, I feel like that's a clear ugly, and like I said before too, I mean, along with that, I feel like the obvious ugly is like a family of kidnappers. Obviously, like it's the pity story of their child, died of cancer at a young age, which is obviously really sad. But then for them to be like, hey, we're gonna kidnap, other kids to wage war with God and try and get people to lose their faith. It's like, oh, well, you kind of lost me there, but fair enough. So I feel like the uglies in here are like super obvious and yeah, don't need to be delved in too much. My other one too, shooting a deer in the opening scene. Come on, Denis. I thought you liked animals out here, bro. What's going on? So that was tough too. Shout out my animal activist says, yeah, that's just not necessary, I don't think.
Well, Cody, as Dylan Minnette says, they have to kill the deer babies. It's all about keeping the population down.
Yeah.
And that's literally moments before the girls like roll up and are hanging out on the van. It's very weird. Interesting, the timing of that line.
Yeah, I think it's a little on the nose there, but yeah, those are my main big ones. I mean, like you said, I mean, the torture stuff is brutal to watch. I don't think I'm gonna watch this movie again, kind of surrounding just because of these main themes, and it gets really, really dark. Did you have anything kind of big, ugly?
We mentioned the poor police work at certain points, especially because it's like, especially when it ends up with old David Dismalkian shooting himself in the head.
I mean, come on.
It is pretty ugly. And then I know you really like the Hugh Jackman's wife in this movie, but like I will say she's pretty sidelined in the whole movie. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, she's crying and taking drugs. And I think we could have had one or two more scenes. I would love a her and Viola Davis scene at some point. Like I feel like those two don't even get to interact, which again goes back to like the Bechdel test thing of like, obviously this is a movie about, a patriarch of his family kind of standing up, but like all she really does is take Ambien and cry.
Yeah.
Which like there's some powerful emotional stuff there, but we could have had a couple more scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like I said, I mean, off the top, those three actresses' performances are really good, but they don't really have a ton to do, I don't think. And like I said, I mean, Kevin James's wife, she's really on the sideline. She probably has like what 4 or 5 scenes altogether. And
she's not actually Kevin James's wife. She's just Kevin James's character.
Shout out Grown Ups.
In the movie Grown Ups.
Maria Bello, I should remember her name because she is really good in this, but I do agree. I mean, give her more to do just because, like you said, she is kind of just, crying and on drugs like the majority of the movie. So definitely a little bit ugly from that portrayal, but like her acting, I think, is really good.
All right, let's take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
Thanks for listening to the episode. You can follow the rest of our happenings over here at Kody and Korbin Have a Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at KHAP Podcasts, KHAPODCAST. Please follow us on Spotify, give us a rating, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow along for more.
And we're back with Invite, Fight, Night.
Totally invite your personal friend, Spider-Man.
I want to fight you. Hans. Bobby.
I'm your white knight.
Kody, who do you want to invite on the pod?
This might have been the toughest Howard fight for me.
Me too.
There's not a ton of like likable people that I really want to have on the podcast. This is a massive question mark, but I'm saying Paul Dano's character. I don't really want him on, but I just kind of
not be the best podcast.
I know. What's the point? I just want to try and get him to talk.
We need answers from someone. I guess he's the only alive person at the end of this movie because Melissa Leo,
she's gonzo. Her husband's gonzo. David Dishmelson, he's also gonzo. So yeah, I mean, this guy has some of the answers. Obviously, you know, I'm not saying like we're gonna torture him or anything until he shares information. I'm just hopeful that he's gonna share some information now that it's all over. But I mean, yeah, he like I said, his kind of gaps in the story are kind of what I'm really interested on what I missed here.
I'll invite Detective Loki because I think he's the character that's like the most interesting, and hell, he's got a lot of cases that he solved, so I'm sure we could get into the weeds of that. And then I guess just, you know, if we don't want to invite a person on, maybe we get a bottle of that special juice, try and do some mazes and record a podcast. Kody, see what happens.
That juice would be good content, but probably not great for our psyches, I don't think. But I'd take a swig. Why not?
LSD and ketamine. It's not a great cocktail.
Sounds powerful. Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't sound the best.
Fight, Kody. There's a lot to pick in this category. Who are you singling out?
Yeah. You could go any direction here. I already mentioned him once, but it's the cop who got his gun taken from him by David Dishmelson. I mean, come on, man. Like, this is Cop 101. Don't even, like, have your gun with you, like, during
I don't even think you're really supposed to bring him in.
Interrogation. So, yeah, that guy, I think he deserves a good roundhouse. Who do you want to fight?
The priest comes to mind, obviously registered sex offender, so
yeah.
He's very deserving. And then he's also just got, like, a dead body of a serial killer in his basement that he just is keeping there. Don't know what's going on with that. Very strange. And then the older siblings, I've called out their acting. I'm also going to call out their supervision skills because they let these girls get taken. They were not supposed to leave the house without them watching.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it's the girl's fault, but also
I was going to say
you're in charge, Dylan Minette. This will be my 13th reason.
It seems like David Dishmelson had a few too. It seemed like maybe from the story perspective, like they didn't know, supposedly. Do you think they're just playing that off? I don't know.
I think they probably didn't get told, but like also Hugh Jackman is so
paranoid.
Yeah, he's so rigid in his parenting. You would think his daughter, she's got the whole like 130 days that like I don't think she would leave the house without asking to be watched. But then again, it also sets up where she rushes into the house without being invited in, and that's his whole thing of like, so maybe she isn't the best listener. I don't know.
That's also pretty stupid. I mean, that could have gone ugly. If you know like these people, you're good friends with them, you're going to Thanksgiving. I think you can walk in when you're 5 years old. I think it's okay, you know.
Something this movie does is it sets up exactly who Hugh Jackman is super effectively in 3-4 scenes. That's one of them.
The truck scene driving back is really good.
This part where they say he sings the Star Spangled Banner in the shower, one quick line, you know exactly what his deal is. And then all like the apocalypse stuff, like you get a very clear idea of who he is. And then the second he starts torturing, you're like, yeah, I kind of get it. Like that makes sense. There's not a big leap there. So I think the writing is smart, even if, yes, it's annoying. They're your friends. You can go into their house. Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of lazy though, but
great. Who do you want a night?
I'm going to take, I can't remember. I'm taking Maria Bello. I'm knighting her. I think in this story, really, she's kind of the only one with morals, or at least comes out with their morals and didn't have to kind of deal with that quandary straight on. Like we said, even Viola Davis got in the weeds and kind of had to get in there and get dirty. So I really can't think of anybody else who has good morals. I guess Detective Loki, but I mean, he messed up a lot here. So I'm going to go with Jackman's wife here, Maria Bello.
I was going to say Detective Loki because Kody.
Yeah, that's fair.
He solved the case. He figured it out. And we can hope he solved the case of the missing Hugh Jackman too.
Do you think those are separate cases? Does that count as two solves there?
I think so. Well, 3 people were missing. Kody. 2 girls.
Yeah, but I guess that's fair because they didn't get found together. So yeah, that's three more solves for Detective Loki. This guy's pretty good.
He's no Michael Fassbender in The Killer, that's for sure. The Recast.
Bond. James Bond. My name's Bond. James Bond.
The name's Bond.
James Bond?
The name's Bond. James Bond.
I wanted to throw, before we do the recasting, I wanted to throw at you somebody who auditioned for the role, Ryan Gosling for Detective Loki. What do you think?
Oh, wow. I would have loved to seen that. I mean, honest, holy moly. Imagine Jackman and Gosling head to head. Yeah, I'm on board. I mean, like I said, Gyllenhaal's great, but
I think Gyllenhaal has more of a darkness that fits for this. I don't know about Gosling.
Oh, dude, give Gosling a chance, man. I back that completely. I think Gosling would have been amazing in this role. But
And I will say, I read that the twitching, the tattoos, the clothing, the hair, like maybe not the hair, but everything else, that was all Gyllenhaal. Like it was fully what he brought to the character. So, you know, it's not as good with Gosling probably because all those things I think really make it.
fair. Those like character traits are super cool, I think. And shout out for Jake, but give Ryan a chance, man. Don't bash him. How many recasts you got? I got a couple.
I got 2. They're not good though.
You kick us off.
I struggle with this one.
It's hard.
So Wayne Duvall plays the police captain. I wanted Captain Richard O'Malley is his character name. I got it here. I wanted to replace him. I was trying to think. I was like, maybe I can find somebody else that goes on to work with Denis later. I still struggled. I was thinking maybe Stellan Skarsgård could potentially do this kind of, you know, because the thing is, you want him to kind of be like, yeah, this is all bullshit. Like, I don't really care. Like, you know, do whatever. Like, I'm not going to watch this guy like fucking solve the case. So I think Stellan Skarsgård can kind of like pull off the like, I'm not really that interested, but you know, like get this guy off my back kind of thing and have a little bit more charisma to him.
Yeah, I like that pick. Stellan Skarsgård, another member of my underrated actors list. I don't know if he's ever done anything like police captain wise, but I'm down for it. He can't be much worse than the guy we got. My first one, I am replacing Dylan Minnette. Shout out Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. again. This is super basic, but give me Timmy Chalamet. I mean, if he was in such a small role in Interstellar, heck, he can do it again in Prisoners. I don't think those movies timeline-wise are super far off, so it kind of makes sense.
I think he could play Jackman's son, believably.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like they kind of look so. Just give him a little haircut. Maybe not the buzz cut that Minnette went with, but
or that you're rocking today.
Yeah, shout out. But yeah, Timmy. I mean, Timmy over Dylan Minnette. That's not even a question. So that's pretty free.
It's pretty easy. I actually wanted to replace Melissa Leo, Holly Jones, the character, and I just think it's just probably because I just wanted to see some bigger name in the role, and obviously that's not a good idea because the second you put a famous person in a role like that, then you're like, oh, there's the killer.
Matt Damon.
Yeah, exactly. So I was thinking maybe like Sharon Stone could be interesting or Sally Field, because then you're really not expecting it. She's a sweetheart.
She's nice.
You need to be able to play off of like, oh, this is an innocent old lady. She would never do anything. Sally Field's probably too nice. I don't know.
Yeah, but you got to have an edge too.
You got to have an edge. She's got an edge.
The character takes such a dark turn, I feel like.
That's where Sharon Stone fits better.
Yeah, I haven't seen Sharon Stone act for a while, so I guess that's fair. But yeah, I probably wouldn't replace Melissa Leo, but I like the different direction. I think it would be a lot more surprising if you had like Sally Field or somebody there. So that makes sense. My second one, I dissed him earlier too. I'm replacing Terrance Howard. Again, I'm going basic again here, but imagine Denzel Washington in this role, dude. Him and Viola.
Replace him with Don Cheadle, Cody.
I considered it highly, but Don, you know, he's kind of hit or miss. Yeah, he just had Secret Invasion too. I was like, I don't want to see him in anything. But I mean, Denzel and Viola teamed up again. Watch the hell out in those scenes. I mean, imagine Denzel in the background of that hammer scene. I want to see it. So somebody like edit that and give me a deep cut of a good
Denzel Jackman's role.
I'm down for that too. But
the problem is Denzel.
Give me Denzel
he's getting
and
the
Loki.
Information out of him.
Yeah, true. Give me Denzel as Detective Loki too. Or the police captain. I mean, just put Denzel in this movie. I think it elevates it.
Denzel will do anything for a child too, so I think it would fit well.
True.
The rating, Cody.
But do you like me?
We both said it's not a 5-star movie, but I imagine it's still pretty high for both of us. I'll start. I'm giving this a 60 out of 69. It is a 4.5 star for me, and it's right at the top. Like I said, some of those issues were just like the mystery part of it. Some of it's a little bit too nice and tidy the way it fits together, but incredible cinematography, incredible performances, fantastic direction, and just like a really gripping and emotional story.
Yeah. I think we're mostly on the same page here. Like I said too, not a perfect movie from my standpoint. Definitely the David Dismalshin character on the rewatch. I was like, I don't love that story wise, but I'm gonna give it a 63 out of 69. I think it's right in that right kind of tier right below kind of my 5 star and all my favorites. So echo what you said. I mean, direction, acting, cinematography, all very, very good. Just a little story kind of mix up for me that I don't love, but yeah, I would highly recommend this movie. One of my favorite Denis by far.
Puts it right next to another Paul Dano performance that you're a fan of.
Batman.
The Batman.
Yeah, I didn't
At
mention
63.
that. I mean, because I said in the Batman episode, I said Paul Dano wasn't great in that because he's kind of doing the same thing he did in Prisoners, which I feel like is fairly true. So I don't know why Paul Dano keeps getting typecast in these type of roles, but he's a really good actor. So I kind of hated on him a little bit too much probably in that episode.
Paul Dano likes to play a little weirdo. What can he say?
Same with David Dismalshin, man. They're really good at it. If it ain't broke, yeah.
You might also like Kody.
Who knows? You might like it. It's a killer rush.
What would you recommend a fan of Prisoners?
I mean, these are pretty obvious. Like we had said, I feel like a lot of this stuff is very Fincher-esque. So that's definitely my first thought. If you haven't seen Seven or Zodiac or even Gone Girl, I feel like that's Gone Girl in this movie, I feel like from a modern standpoint are, about as similar as you get, story-wise. So I'd recommend those. Also, like I said, 2 other just Denis movies. You haven't seen Arrival, obviously that's top of my list. Sicario, I think, is the really underrated one. Like I said, the cinematography on that I think is crazy underrated. I think it may be a little bit better than this movie, which is a strong take. But yeah, from Denis' catalog, obviously, if you haven't seen all of the big ones, but Sicario would be my underrated recommendation.
Zodiac was on my list as well. And then a movie that I think Zodiac pulls a lot from that came out a few years earlier, Memories of Murder from Bong Joon-ho, is a similar like police detective story. How far will you go to get information out of people? That sort of thing. Asks a lot of moral questions about, when a woman is raped and murdered, like, what will you do to catch the person who's doing it? And then another kind of mystery thriller one that I almost put Gone Girl, but is related to Gone Girl. It's called Gone Baby Gone, and it's directed by Ben Affleck, starring Casey Affleck. It's a story about a child who goes missing, and pretty solid Casey Affleck performance, and just a good old Boston movie.
Classic. Shout out The Town as well. But I do like that movie. I think that was Ben Affleck's directorial debut, possibly.
Yes.
And teaming up with his bro. I mean, that's awesome. Yeah. So that's a good one too.
Morgan Freeman as
Morgan
the police captain. Maybe make him the police captain.
Ooh, that's a great recast. Love that.
The final question, Kody.
All right, listen, I got one last question for you.
What's your final question?
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like you are kind of a self-told Jake Gyllenhaal fan here. So I got a question about him. What do you think is Jake Gyllenhaal's best performance?
I think it's either this or Nightcrawler, which I think is probably the obvious answers. We are in our next category going to be doing a little bit of a Jake Gyllenhaal draft, so I don't want to share too much. I do like him in Zodiac. The only other thing I'll throw out there is End of Watch, which is not necessarily a super dramatic performance, but it's something that's it's a little weird. It's a little out there. This guy's, got a couple screws loose, but it's also funny. And it has a good bit of heartfelt emotion in there as well.
Yeah, I like that. And one thing I don't think we talked about either, but I think I watched like the similar thing with Jake Gyllenhaal, like breaking down his career. And he was talking about how End of Watch really helped him in this movie. Because before End of Watch, he went and like shadowed a cop for however many days.
Yeah,
or
they were
whatever.
like just hanging out in the streets of LA with LAPD.
So he already knew what was going on. I feel like his audition, like he could focus more on those little mannerisms for the character because he already knew kind of the whole cop role in a sense.
Yeah.
So I think that like piggybacked with this is a really cool like duo performance. Yeah,
for sure. And I mean, also I'll say I'm not a huge fan of the movie Enemy. It's my least favorite of Denis, but he's essentially playing 2 roles in the movie, and he is very solid in that as well. My question for you, Kody, of the Detective Loki aesthetic, which thing do you most wish you could pull off? Is it the haircut? Is it the tattoos, the rings, the weird shirt and tie he wears? What from his look do you want to pull?
His look specifically, or like his character,
or his vibe? Yeah. Or is it the blinking? Do you wish you blinked better?
No, I think I'm good with my own blinking, but I mean, for me personally, just I would probably say the slick back hair look. I think it's a good look. I mean, if we're talking about my hair, like I have this super curly hair that just turns into an afro if I grow it out. So I kind of like the little slick back mobster look, even though he turns it into like a police detective. So if I had to choose one thing from a look standpoint, I would say that. Personality wise, I like how he's hitting on girls at the Chinese restaurant with like the zodiac signs. I thought that was interesting, but
He's spending his Thanksgiving at the
yeah, it's
Chinese
also
restaurant.
Thanksgiving. Yeah, I guess that's pretty lonely, so I take that
Good
back
character
too.
building.
Yeah, there's nothing good about him. Basically, I take it back. But
We haven't talked enough about his hair though. It
it
has
is
its
good.
own great performance in this movie.
Oh yeah, it's all over the place, but especially like in that car scene too. It's like coming down on his eye as well. Yeah, it's amazing. So shout out his hair. I would never diss Jake's hair in this movie.
The 3-movie mini draft.
Well, it is draft day.
I think I got the first pick this week, Cody. Because
Yeah, I think it's your pick.
And I'm gonna go. This is kind of tough because really, I think our tastes probably don't align very heavily in terms of Jake Gyllenhaal. But I'll go Nightcrawler because I think it's probably the one you're eyeing the most. And like I said, I think it's one of his better performances. Riz Ahmed is also very good in that movie as well. Makes you ask some more questions as somebody who works in like the TV world, the media world. There's a lot of interesting ideas there.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I think that was the first movie I ever saw Riz Ahmed in, possibly. And
I think so as well.
Yeah, he's really good. Renee Russo, like I said before, I think she kind of steals the show altogether. She's awesome. Shout out Major League as well. And also Nightcrawler is just the GOAT X-Men movie. So
My favorite X-Men. The opening of X2.
Oh, unbeatable. Are we doing Snake? Do I have two here, or are we going back and forth?
Yeah, we'll Snake. I think that's what.
All right. Well, you took my first pick, unfortunately. It's kind of why I'm vamping here. I'll take a classic of his and then a deeper cut that I like. I'll take Brokeback Mountain to start. I think him and Heath Ledger are obviously really, really good. And yeah, it's just a solid flick. I think Jake G's filmography, overall, I'm not the biggest fan of, but I think that's undoubtedly a really good movie. And then my second pick, sort of a nostalgic pick here, I'm gonna take October Sky, which it's one of his earlier performances. It's actually really young, Gyllenhaal. I think it was maybe even before Donnie Darko, which is pretty crazy. But basically, he is a kid, and his dad is Chris Cooper. Shout out the Muppets. But his dad basically is like a big miner or whatever. Like they're coal miners or something. I don't know. And like he's in the family business, so he's gonna be a coal miner. But he actually likes like making like rockets and stuff. So it's kind of just like a coming of age story about a kid who, is kind of just in a, blue blood situation that, he kind of wants to escape from. And as a kid, I saw it in school and I really connected to it. So I'm going to take October Sky as my second pick.
Very nice. See, Cody, you took two movies of his that I've actually not seen. So I'll throw that out.
Oh, wow. You haven't seen Brokeback Mountain?
It's on the MK 300 list. So
it'll make Heath Ledger is crazy good, dude. Yeah, I love Heath.
I'm gonna go Zodiac with my second pick here. I know you're not as big of a fan, but like I said, in our last episode, David Fincher, my favorite director, I think it's a 5-star masterpiece of a movie. And then he's got a lot of interesting ones. I'm gonna go Okja for the last pick. I think just because if you ever look up a screenshot of what his character looks like in that movie, Cody,
I haven't seen this movie.
He wears an insane suit. He's got a fantastic mustache, kind of playing this weird like environmentalist guy. And he's just doing bits the whole movie. It's very much in like the Jake Gyllenhaal weirdo camp. Ambulance fits into that. There's moments of The Covenant that feel really much like that. Nocturnal Animals. It's when he's having his most fun.
Is it a Kevin Smith movie?
It's a Bong Joon-ho movie, Cody.
Okja? Damn, I gotta get that on my list. What? Oh, I'm thinking of Tusk, I think.
Yes, that's Kevin Smith. That's
Justin Long.
Justin Long.
Okay, nice. I did not know Bong Joon-ho directed that. I've not seen Memories of Murder either. So those are my two Bong Joon-ho misses, I believe. But he's making a new movie this year, so I kind of want to catch up on his stuff. So that's cool. Oh, that's my list as well. Okay. I can go a ton of different directions here. I think Brothers. I'm not gonna pick that, but gosh, that's an intense movie as well with Tobey Maguire and him. Rachel McAdams. Southpaw's also good too. Zodiac was on my short list. I think I'm just gonna go with Spider-Man, Far From Home. I don't even really like that movie, if
I
I'm
was
being
gonna say
honest.
you're a hater.
It's okay. I mean, him as Mysterio, I think has grown on me a little bit more. But like it's not a bad movie or anything. So I'll take that as my last one.
That's fair. I was thinking Source Code. It's not a great
I haven't seen
movie.
that either.
Jake Gyllenhaal on a
I've
train.
almost watched that like 3 times, Source Code.
It's very watchable. I'll say
Yeah.
that. It's kind of Groundhog's Day-esque, but not really.
I feel like I would like it. It's like sci-fi, yeah, like Groundhog's Day
Yeah,
almost. Yeah.
guy on train explodes, and it's a Chicago movie, which is fun.
Nice.
And then Life, which is it's kind of, I guess, Venom symbiote-esque. I mean, it's like an alien creature attacks a bunch of people on a space station.
Yeah.
It's got Ryan Reynolds in it as well.
When
It's
the
not great.
trailer came out, everybody was like, "Is this a Venom prequel?" Like, I don't understand. But that'd have been cool if it was, but I don't
Should have
think it
been.
was. Yeah.
Sadly not.
So,
Weekly watches, Cody.
Karen, honey, what are you watching?
What have you been into?
oh man, it's been a while since we recorded here. I've been into too much. So we even talked about our weekly watches even before like Christmas here. So it's been a couple weeks. First off, a couple small TV things I wanted to talk about. Corbin, have you watched any of these Marvel What Ifs that they've been releasing?
Cody, I haven't. I was so oblivious that they were even happening. The whole season came out, and then I saw a thing that was like season 3 trailers out, and I was like, "What the fuck? There's a season 3 trailer? Like,
Yeah.
what is happening? Tell me about them, Cody. What's
So
the highlights?"
they're okay. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good. I've seen all of them except the last 2 episodes, which are pretty much like an intertwined story that I don't love. But there's cool, interesting ones. First off, there's like a Nebula episode, but it's straight up just a Blade Runner copy and paste, basically. That's kind of the theme of the season is
They're doing
just
like movies, right? Yeah.
100%. They're taking characters in the MCU and just putting them in different movies. The other one that I liked a lot more was it's a Die Hard-esque Happy Hogan story. I won't spoil it. There's a weird twist that I really dislike with Happy Hogan's character.
Is it
But
voiced by Favreau?
It is. They pretty much got most of the big names
You just
back.
had to walk across from Lucasfilm. Take a little
Yeah,
jaunt
from
over.
what the Jungle Book 5 that I'm sure is done already. I thought that was good. And then the episode that I really liked the most, it's nothing to do with a pre-existing Marvel character at all. It's sort of a really cool Native American conquistador story that's really decent. I would actually honestly I would not watch any of the other ones, but I'd go and recommend that episode specifically because it's not any kind of existing characters in the MCU. It's kind of just like an outlying story that I found really interesting.
That's
So I
cool.
thought that was good. But other than that, kind of into movies. Like we are saying, the whole Christmas season. I kind of watched a few Christmas movies, so run through those pretty quick. Christmas Vacation, National Lampoons,
Same.
classic, 5 stars. Muppet Christmas Carol, got to watch that Christmas Eve,
Same.
5 stars, classic. Home Alone 1, Home Alone 2. I usually watch those as well. Those are Home Alone 1, I'll tell you what, man, it's a little dated. I watched it this year. In the first like half hour, it's like, oh man, like I'm struggling a little bit to get through this. But Home Alone 2 is a classic. So
I saw someone on Reddit where it's like, you could just remove the entire storyline of the wet bandits breaking into the house, and you'd still have a full movie about Kevin meeting his neighbor. Like,
I mean, yeah, that's kind of the
there's
best
a lot
part
of
of
other
the
stuff
story.
going on.
I guess, but that's my favorite part of the story is the old man with the shovel and the bird lady in the second one. Like those always make me cry. So that's kind of why I like those movies a lot. Oh yeah, and I watched Love Actually for the first time ever. I had never seen it. Not great. Kind of a bunch of creeps running
Yep.
around Britain and stuff. Andrew Lincoln's the worst of them all, and Hugh Grant's not much better as the prime minister trying to sleep with the secretary, I guess. So kind of weird. Obviously the whole thing is it's a ton of different plot lines and stuff centered around like love and Christmas, but I didn't love it really. If I'm being honest, I probably won't watch it again for a while. But other than that, some other movies that I did watch and I did like a lot. I watched Scott Pilgrim versus the World for the first time. Man, I freaking love this movie, dude. I really think I'm gonna rewatch it again soon. The
So are
soundtrack
you
is
gonna
on.
watch the anime?
I might. I don't know. I might sit on that for a little bit, but The soundtrack in this movie is freaking amazing. I've been listening to the Brie Larson song literally on loop on Apple Music since I watched it. So coming into 2024, that might be my top song at the end of the year. So beware of that. But yeah, there's definitely one thing of it's like Scott Pilgrim's like dating like a 17-year-old high schooler.
As a
Um,
central plot point of the film.
yeah, so that's not cool. Kind of similar to Prisoners, I guess. That's a 4.5-star movie for me, just because I can't really get past that. But really good. If you haven't seen that, I'd highly recommend it. And I'm probably gonna go on a Edgar Wright here binge a little bit too, and knock out the Cornetto trilogy because I've not seen all three of those. But other than that, checked out Bottoms. Really good. Kind of surprised me with how funny it was. The third act specifically, I was a really big fan of. So if you haven't seen that this year, I'd recommend
I
it.
think our next episode might be a little bit of a year in review type thing,
Yeah.
Cody. But for me, that's definitely up there in my top movies of the year. I was really sad. I was last night. I was like, I should rewatch that actually, and then it's like only available on MGM Plus.
Yeah, I think I rented it, if I'm being honest, just because
It
I'm
was on
trying to.
Hulu for a little bit, I think, but I
Yeah,
digress.
whatever. Regardless, go watch it if you haven't seen it. Hopefully, it's on streaming.
Big surprise for the year. That's
at
what
this
I'll
point.
say.
Yeah, Io Biri. Also, that director's great. Whoever the other main chick is in it,
Rachel
her,
Sennett, Emma
yeah, Rachel
Siegelman.
Sennett, and the director, yeah, who you just said, they had a movie before that, that is high on my
Shiva
list.
Baby.
Yeah, Shiva Baby. So I'm excited to see that just because I was kind of blown away by Io and her kind of lead performances. I thought they were really, really good, and the chemistry. It really reminded me of Booksmart. It's kind of like Booksmart, like negative 1.0.
It's
Like I
it's
like.
like Booksmart, but it's got this I
It's
don't
a
even
different
really know
vibe.
how to describe because the world it
It's
creates
not.
is so
Yeah,
unique. It's very
it's not real world.
satirical and flamboyant and extra and yeah,
It's
it's
awesome.
cool.
It's a separate universe from
I
ours, but
hesitate to say camp, but
yeah,
in
I
a
guess a
way,
little bit. It just leans into the jokes, I think, a lot more.
yeah,
Which
it's
is
very
not a.
self-aware.
Yeah. And then the other thing I checked out too was they cloned Tyrone, which I did enjoy. I mean, John Boyega, I've been a big fan of him, obviously, on this podcast. I thought he was great. I think he carried the movie. Jamie Foxx, I thought he was good. I don't know. It's kind of just a story I've seen, I feel like, a few times, and it didn't do anything to kind of blow me away or anything. But I thought the cast and the writing specifically was pretty good too.
Tiana
Uh,
Paris as well, or
yeah, it was
what's her
cool to
name?
see her in
Photon?
a different role than Monica Rambeau. So I
There it
thought that
is.
was cool. She's one of the Marvels. She doesn't even have a
Yeah.
superhero name or whatever, but she's in the X-Men now. Spoiler alert, I guess. That's pretty much it. I also, I guess our last episode, I believe I was watching Survivor 38: Edge of Extinction. I finished that. Shout out Chris, worst winner ever. I started watching Survivor 41 because I was like, hey, I haven't rewatched really any of the new era seasons, and I'm bored, so I might as well. So I started watching 41. I actually finished 41 as well in between episodes here. Pretty good. I like Shan a lot. Erica is also a good winner, so I like her too. Xander, my boy Xander, we talked about that a ton, but absolute robbery at Final Tribal. No votes for Xander. I think he just didn't really know how to talk about his game, and then they kind of tripped him up with like, oh, you weren't really socially aware that much, and he didn't really have any answers. Although I feel like he was fairly social aware, he just didn't know how to convey that,
Yeah, I
which is
think he
where
just
Erica was
failed.
really, really good at. She's really good about just like talking about her game, I feel like. And then I started watching 42 as well, and I'm a couple episodes in. But that is my spiel.
Freaking
Corbino.
new age rewatches, Cody. Gotta
Have
love it.
to. What have you been into, man?
So I went and watched Leave the World Behind.
Yeah.
At home with my family. Tackles some really interesting ideas. I think it's a complaint that a lot of people had. It's a little over directed. There's a lot of just like shots for the sake of shots. I'm not really sure they're conveying anything emotionally or story wise. I like Mahershala Ali and Julia Roberts a lot in the movie. Ethan Hawke is doing something interesting. I can't say it's my favorite thing, but it's at the end of the day, it's trying to attribute too much meaning and reasoning to this like apocalyptic story, and it's one of those things that's like I'd be okay if this was just left more open ended and kind of let you kind of figure things out. The only Christmas movie I watched Christmas Carol and Christmas Vacation, like I said, the Muppets version of Christmas Carol.
Oh, yeah.
And I also watched a Hallmark Christmas movie, Cody, called A Biltmore Christmas, which is about a screenwriter who is tasked with writing a reboot for a classic Christmas movie. And then she time travels back in time to the original Christmas movie using a mystical hourglass. It's a love story. It's a Christmas story. It's actually not bad.
Real?
I kind of enjoyed it. Yeah, I would honestly recommend it. If you want to watch a Hallmark movie, this might be the one. I also watched The Iron Claw, which is just a depressing film. Fantastic performances, really some interesting directorial choices. There's a couple shots in particular that have really stuck with me of like, I've never really seen somebody do something like that before. And then Zac Efron is a real revelation. I don't know if he's gonna get into the 5 for Best Actor. It's a tight race. There's been a lot of great movies this year. Looking at the 5, I would be okay with dropping Leo out in favor of Zac Efron.
Whoa.
I think to me, what Leo does in that movie is one of the lesser parts of that movie. I like that movie a lot. I think Lily Gladstone's fantastic. I think Robert De Niro is really good. But if you look at like Bradley Cooper and Maestro, I'm gonna have to name Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers, Bradley Cooper and Maestro, Jeffrey Wright in American Fiction, which is one of my 3 favorite movies of the year.
Nice.
And then you get you throw in as the 5th, you throw in
I mean, probably Leo.
That's the thing. I would take Efron over Leo. That's what I'm saying. Give me Zac Efron, Cillian Murphy, Jeffrey Wright, Bradley Cooper, Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, but Leo's always got to get nommed just to not win, you know?
I know.
It's tradition.
I know. That's why it's probably not going to happen. I don't know. Bring your tissue boxes to the Iron Claw. I watched Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, Cody. Fucking terrible. It's not even like that bad. It's just like really uninteresting. It's a series of events where it's like characters go from place to place with no apparent purpose. And then there's a twist at the end that's like, okay, I guess this is a twist, but also it's not really that big of a twist. And then if like the ending of the movie, there's a big climactic fight, shit happens, and then 5 minutes later it's all undone and go watch part 2. Like, like it's so fucking stupid.
Sounds good.
It kind of looked fucking ugly too. Like it's just bad blue screen, like soundstage shit.
You'd figure that Zack Snyder could at least do that good. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, man. I also watched Rustin, which Coleman Domingo tapped maybe also could be like 5-6 in terms of getting nominated. I thought this was also not a super well made movie. It looks pretty ugly. There's one shot where they're like allegedly at the Lincoln Memorial. They're not, Cody. I can tell you that for sure. It looks so bad.
They weren't there, man. Are you sure?
No, they weren't. It's poorly made. It's cheaply made. It's sad. It's a bad Netflix biography. It's an important story that's being told. I think Coleman Domingo's performance is very strong in it. It's just like kind of a low grade biopic. And then I also saw Anyone But You, which is the movie earlier today. You couldn't think of Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. I liked this movie more than I expected to. I think Glenn Powell and especially Sydney Sweeney are kind of miscast. I would love to see Glenn Powell. Mina brought this up in the movie Set It Up. He's with Zoe Deutsch. I think she'd be solid in this. Just like somebody who's a little bit more of a comedic actor.
I mean, it's Sydney Sweeney though, man. Come on.
I don't know. She's fine. And then I'll say I started my new year with There Will Be Blood and Fargo and Rushmore were the first 3 movies I watched of 2024. Wow. So a solid little run there.
I love it. Good start to the year.
Everybody, thank you for listening. This has been Prisoners, and we'll catch you in the next one where we talk our faves of 2024.
Stay capping.
Peace.
Peace.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.